Metacognition is the process of thinking about thinking. Strangely, it's not something we do all that often, unless we're consciously reminded to do so. Like breathing, it's something that we all just do instinctively without, thinking. But like any habit, the way we think can be good or bad. Raising our thinking to a conscious level helps us monitor our practice and improve it where necessary. Thinking about our thinking actually helps us do it better and in a calmer and more effective way. If you're a top athlete, after every training session you'll spend time reflecting on your performance. How did you feel about your session? What did you do well? What can you improve next time? Some athletes spend ages watching recordings of their performance, analysing and critiquing every second of it. They're always on the lookout for even the tiniest things they can do to help them improve. But when it comes to our study, we rarely do this. Whether we experience success or failure in our assessment tasks, we tend to just keep doing things the same way. But that approach is self-defeating. If your current study habits aren't working for you, it simply doesn't make sense to just keep following them. As Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing things the same way over and over again and expecting different results. Sometimes we might look at the study habits of the students who are doing better than us and try and adopt their approach and mirror their techniques. But everyone learns slightly differently. Their approach simply might not work for you. It also depends a little on what subjects you do. Subjects like science and languages that require you to learn specific vocabulary might lend themselves really well to flashcards where you can do quick revision to check your knowledge. But flashcards that determine whether your knowledge is right or wrong won't be of much help when you're trying to analyse content and justify your conclusions. The best approach is to assess your own specific learning style and study techniques and determine what is working well for you and what needs some attention. Even if you're happy with your current results, everyone can benefit from thinking about their thinking. You might find some alternatives that would be interesting to try. There are 3 main ways to use metacognition to improve your learning and boost your results. Number 1, know your learning style. Are you right-brained or left-brained? Are you a logical, diagram-oriented person? Or do you prefer artistic representations, drawings and colours? Are you a verbal, visual, auditory or kinesthetic learner? In other words, do you learn best through reading, seeing, listening or doing? Many modern psychologists reject these distinctions, arguing that they can limit our cognitive development. And certainly most people use a combination of these techniques, but you will instinctively choose some methods over others. But we know that the more different techniques you can use, the more areas of your brain will be stimulated, helping you embed the information more deeply. If you know that you usually only follow one style or approach to learning, try to challenge yourself to mix it up. Not only will it activate your brain, but it will help keep things challenging and interesting. Number 2, determine what you do well and what could use some attention. Are there common mistakes that you make? If so, it's important to focus on them and spend time deliberately improving them. For example, you might know that you're really good at remembering information, but that you struggle to express your ideas clearly in an exam. Given that you can't hand in your head at the end of the exam, it's always going to be important to be able to convey your knowledge in writing. So, you need to take the time to work at this skill so that you can improve it. Maybe panic is your biggest adversary. Again, you need to spend time and effort teaching yourself ways to overcome the stress of exams. Maybe it's deconstructing and understanding the actual exam questions. Or maybe you're too tunnel-visioned and struggle to apply known information to a range of different situations. Or maybe you're too big picture, so you miss the little details. It's pretty safe to bet that there will be things you do consistently across your assessment tasks that are preventing you from getting top results. When you get your results back, take the time to sit down and work out where you lost your marks. This will help you work out the common areas that you need to work on to be able to improve. Firstly, you need to think about what did work. These are the things you need to keep doing. But what didn't work for you? Once you know this, then rather than getting upset or angry about the situation, you need to think about why it didn't work. What could you do differently that would help you improve your results? Once you can identify the problem, then you can actively set about trying to improve it. Without this action, it's almost impossible to improve. Imagine that you baked a cake and it didn't rise. If you just shrugged your shoulders and didn't take the time to think about why the cake collapsed, then the next time you cook it, there's a fair chance the same thing will happen again. But if you take the time to investigate, you might find that the recipe used flour, and you just thought that was plain flour. But in fact, you needed to use self-raising flour in order to make the cake rise. Unless you make a note of this on your recipe, you'll continue to bake flat cakes. They might still be yummy, but they won't be successful as a cake. Think back to our athlete who we started with. If she just finishes her training session knowing that next time she wants to do better, that's not going to be very helpful. Even if she narrows it down to she wants to run faster, that's still not going to help her much. But if she analyses her performance and realises that it's her start that's slowing her down, then she knows that by concentrating on her starts, she'll be able to improve her time. This is useful knowledge and something that she can directly focus on in future training sessions. Number 3, mix it up. Once you know your learning style and the methods that do and don't work for you, it's time to start mixing it up. One of the problems with studying is that it can easily get boring, especially in the weeks when it feels like that's all you're doing. Keeping your study sessions interesting has a few benefits. It keeps you motivated and interested. It stimulates different parts of the brain. It helps you see things from different perspectives, which expands your thinking. It teaches you new techniques that you might otherwise never have tried. Deliberately and consciously introducing change makes us experiment with learning or forces us to defend and justify our usual behaviours. Either way, it gives us an opportunity to explore alternatives and see what really works. If you rely on writing information out, maybe try turning it into diagrams. What happens if you listen to the information? Recording yourself and then playing it back might help you engage with the information more frequently. Can you incorporate flashcards into your learning? Would you benefit from studying different subjects in different places? Are you studying at the best time for your natural rhythms? Varying your study patterns and methods also helps you develop your brain. The more different ways we can absorb information, the more neural pathways we can activate in our brain. We also know that the harder we make our brains work, the more effort they have to put into learning, and the more deeply it will embed the information. If we only ever use methods we're familiar and comfortable with, we won't create these new pathways. Therefore, we'll have a lot of brain power that we never use. The other advantage of using different styles in your learning is that it makes you more prepared to do things differently in the assessment. Just as all students think a little differently from each other, so do teachers. Your teacher may have approached the task a little differently from you, and therefore might ask a question that you weren't expecting. By exploring the content through different filters as you learned it, you'll be far more ready and relaxed about responding through different filters in the assessment. Knowing how you think is the first step to improving how you think and how you learn. You need to understand your strengths and weaknesses before you can adapt your methods. Otherwise, you'll spend a lot of time and effort achieving very little. And our aim is to learn to study smarter, not harder. Thanks for watching. If you've got a comment or a question, feel free to leave it below and we'll get back to you. And remember to like and subscribe so you get notification of our next study tips. And look out for us on your social networks, and for more study help, head to our website.